"Get out! This isn't your place anymore!" My wife's voice cracked after she locked me out and drained my earnings. "Then cover the rent yourself," I shot back, terminating the lease and reclaiming the car. I stood at the threshold, my own front door. The key trembled in my grip as I tried to turn it, but the lock refused to yield. "This is my home," I whispered into the phone. On the other end, my mother-in-law let out a faint chuckle. "Not anymore," she said. "We changed the locks and told her to stop contacting you. She doesn't want to hear from you." My mind struggled to grasp her words. I'd just finished a 24-hour shift. System crashes, endless calls, clients who couldn't even reboot their devices. I was exhausted, and now I couldn't even enter my own house. Then she spoke again, cool and detached. "We need $15,000 for our anniversary getaway. Wire it today, or I'll make sure she knows you were never worthy of her." $15,000? I let out a hollow laugh. Not because it was amusing, but because something inside me shattered. "Where is she?" I asked. "She's here," she replied bluntly, resting soundly, far from your chaos. I tried calling my wife, straight to voicemail. I sent texts. None were seen. I knocked on the door, softly at first, then louder. The corridor rang with the sound of my fist against wood. Eventually, I slumped to the cold floor outside. My head spun, and the air felt thick. None of this seemed real. My phone vibrated. A text. "Family supports family. Stop being greedy." I opened our banking app. The joint account was nearly empty. The money I'd worked for, saved, was gone. Spent on what? Designer bags, vacations, her mother's expenses? They called this family? No. This was a nest of leeches. Hours dragged on. I sat there, chilled, barely stirring. My ears buzzed. I felt detached. Just before dawn, the door creaked open. I looked up, hopeful, but it wasn't her. Not truly. Just her hand, reaching out without feeling. She placed a small plastic container on the ground. Stale noodles inside, sauce dried and cracked, a note stuck on top. "Your meal." The door slammed shut. I stared at the container. Grease stains on the lid. Food left out too long. My hands were numb, my legs rigid. But I didn't feel the cold. Only a deep, burning rage. I grabbed my phone, closed the joint account, ended the lease. I was the one on the contract. The car she always used, the one I paid for, still parked below. It was mine now. No farewells, no texts. I got in the car, turned the ignition. The engine's roar drowned out everything as I drove into the dim, early morning fog. My phone buzzed again. 10 missed calls, then 20, then 52. But the last was from an unfamiliar number. A voicemail played. "This is Ronald Carter from Carter & Associates. Please call us urgently regarding a legal matter involving your wife." I grinned. A cold, hard grin. They thought they'd won. They had no clue who they were facing. I pulled into a rundown motel, the kind with a neon sign that flickered weakly. The wind battered the windows, but I didn't notice. My hands clenched the steering wheel. My chest tightened with anger and disbelief. They thought they'd crushed me. They didn't know what I could become without their shackles. I checked the banking app again. Every dollar was gone. $900 a month on food I never ate. $700 for bills I didn't use. $3,000 for her mother's hospital bills. A gold necklace. $2,500 for a family vacation I wasn't invited to. To them, I was a walking ATM. They assumed I'd tolerate it forever. Not anymore. I opened my work email. My access still worked. My account hadn't been locked. I was still in the system. Network administrator. A lofty title for the guy who fixed everything in the background, but now it was my weapon for something else. I logged in with admin credentials I'd set up years ago and accessed her old email account. She still used the same password I'd created for her ages ago. I was in. And what I found? It was venom. Emails between her and her mother, gloating about how they siphoned my savings, bragging about taking it all, plans for a lavish trip to London, luxury hotel, high-end boutiques. Her mother's words in one email: "Make sure he funds every penny. He owes you for wasting your youth." But worse than that, an email thread with Ronald Carter, a draft for a divorce settlement. At the top, my wife's name. At the bottom, mine. They wanted full financial support, alimony payments, half of everything I owned. They weren't just leaving. They were out to ruin me. My jaw clenched, but my hand stayed steady. I clicked reply on her email and wrote, "Ronald, I've reconsidered. No divorce proceedings for now. Please halt all actions. I'll speak to my spouse directly." I hit send. Then I created a filter. Any emails from Ronald would be routed to a hidden folder. Nothing erased, just concealed. I'd built that rule for her long ago. Let her wonder why he stopped responding. But I wasn't done. I opened our shared cloud drive. Photos, videos, years of what I thought were memories. Instead, most were just images of her mom, and trips I funded but never attended. I saw her posing with strangers, men I didn't recognize, chat logs, coy messages, proof of a double life. I saved everything, screenshots, clips, files, into one folder, evidence. Then my phone buzzed. Her mother. I answered but stayed silent. "Hello? Are you even there?" she snapped. "Or are you just playing the victim again?" she ranted on. Her voice was harsh and bitter. "Stop moping and send the money. No one cares about your drama. You're nothing without us. My daughter wasted her prime years on you. A failure who couldn't even meet her needs." I tapped record. I let her continue, fury spilling out. She didn't know she was adding to my growing collection of proof. When she finally stopped, I spoke. "Done?" Silence. "Then how dare you?" "No," I said, voice firm and icy. "How dare you? This is over." I hung up. They thought they could destroy me. They had no idea who they were up against. I transferred my remaining funds to a new account. I froze all shared credit cards. I updated my payroll to a different bank. Their access was slipping away. By dawn, I had compiled a folder brimming with everything: texts, emails, recordings, transaction logs, a chronicle of betrayal. But I wasn't satisfied yet. I drove and parked a block from their apartment. I didn't need to go inside. I didn't have to. As the network admin, I'd set up everything in that apartment. The cameras, the Wi-Fi, the smart devices, all still tied to my admin account. I opened the app. One tap, and I could see inside. There was my wife pacing the living room, clutching her phone tightly. "Mom, he's not responding," she said, her voice trembling. "What if he knows?" Her mom barked back. "Stop freaking out. He's too dumb to figure it out. Just keep acting like you care, he'll break. He always does." I gritted my teeth and tapped the mic button. The smart devices glowed, and my voice filled the room. "Act like you care," my wife screamed, dropping her phone. Her mother spun around, startled. "Who's there? What's this?" I laughed. The sound reverberated through their pristine little home. "Did you really think I'd stay clueless forever?" I said calmly. "You thought I'd remain blind?" They froze, their faces ashen. "Listen closely," I said. "I know everything, the money, the fake settlement, the lies. I have the evidence, and I'm done being your pawn." Her mother yelled, "You can't do this." "I already did," I replied, and cut the feed. Seconds later, my phone rang again. "Ronald Carter." I didn't pick up. He left a voicemail. "Mr. Daniel, I believe we need to talk." I leaned back on the motel bed. Darkness closed in like a heavy drape. My phone, now silent, lay beside me. For the first time in hours, no ringing, no buzzing. They were panicking because they'd lost their grip. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I had every text, every fake smile, every scheme they plotted behind my back. All stored and organized. I even had their voices mocking my expense, assuming I was too weak to fight back. But now I held the advantage, and something else they didn't. A career. A domain they couldn't touch. I showered, dressed, and headed out. I wasn't fleeing. I was going to the one place where they had no power over me. My workplace, my fortress. The overhead lights hummed softly as I sat at my desk, watching streams of data flicker across the screen. But my focus wasn't on the job, it was on them. The ones who thought I was already defeated. My phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. Ronald Carter. "Mr. Daniel, we need to discuss this. What you've done has caused severe distress to my clients. And that's just the start." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the folder. Inside were saved messages between my wife and her mother. "He's so oblivious. He won't even suspect it." Audio clips. "He's worthless. We carried him all this time, and he never knew." Photos of her with other men, playful exchanges, and the divorce draft with my name and hers, crafted with Carter's help. They weren't just leaving me. They were trying to obliterate my life, but the snare they set, they were stumbling into it. A new alert flashed on my screen. Security notification. I opened the live feed. There they were in the building lobby. My wife, her mother, and Ronald Carter. My wife clung to his arm, eyes brimming with tears. Her mom was shouting at the security guard, gesturing wildly. Carter tried to stay composed, but I could see the strain in his face. Perfect. My phone rang again. "Security. Mr. Daniel. 3 visitors are insisting on seeing you. They're causing a scene downstairs." I smiled. Let them up. They burst into the glass meeting room like a tempest. My wife's face was smeared with makeup, her eyes swollen. Her mother looked livid, practically trembling. Carter trailed behind, trying to appear professional but clearly shaken. Her mother spoke first, voice shrill and piercing. "You think you can just shut us out? Take everything?" I leaned back in my chair, arms folded. Curious choice of words. My wife stepped forward, voice breaking. "Please, can we talk? We can resolve this. Really, we can fix it." I laughed. "You mean deceive? Exploit me? Manipulate me like always?" Carter raised a hand, trying to diffuse the tension. "Mr. Daniel, we're here to sort this out amicably. What you've done has deeply hurt my clients. There's no need to escalate." I tapped my phone. "Then let's be truthful." I hit play. Her mother's voice filled the room. "He's a failure. We'll bleed him dry and he'll never notice." Her face blanched. "That's fabricated," she screamed. "You altered it. It's not real." I switched to another file. They're texts. "Just tell him you love him. He'll crumble. He always does." My wife staggered back, covering her mouth in shock. "Stop it," she whispered. "That's not—" I didn't. I stared at her, calmly. "Oh, but you did." I pulled up another document. The divorce draft from Carter. Half of everything I own. Full financial support. But you overlooked something. Carter tensed. "Mr. Daniel, I can't discuss private documents without their consent." I cut him off. "Their consent? You're their tool. You thought I was too feeble to resist." Her mother lunged forward, enraged. But I stood and met her fury head-on. "This is my workplace. Cameras are rolling. Your threats are being recorded. You wanted a battle? Now you have one." My wife reached for my arm, tears streaming. "Please, I didn't mean for this to go so far. Didn't mean?" I pulled away. "You meant every word of it. You just thought I'd stay silent." Carter stepped forward. "Mr. Daniel, perhaps we can negotiate. No need to make this a legal fight." I stepped closer. "Negotiate? You plan to destroy me. And now every cent will be handled through the courts." I turned and walked toward the door. Behind me, my wife was sobbing. Her mother shouted. Carter tried to regain control. "Mr. Daniel," he called out. "We can still resolve this." I paused at the doorway. Didn't look back. "You had your shot. Now you'll watch it all collapse, bit by bit." I walked out, leaving them behind, trapped in the chaos they created. Back in my office, I shut the door and leaned against it. My pulse raced, not from fear, but from something sharper than I'd felt in years. Control. For the first time in ages, I wasn't the fool. My phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Ronald Carter. "Mr. Daniel, I strongly urge we talk. There's still a chance to settle this peacefully." I smiled. They were rattled now. Exactly what I wanted. Leaning back in my chair, I stared at the soft glow of my monitor. The office was silent except for the steady hum of the AC. Through the glass walls, my colleagues worked quietly, unaware of the storm I had unleashed. They had no idea I wasn't broken. I wasn't pleading. The silence. It wasn't surrender. It was strength. My phone buzzed again. Ronald Carter's name appeared once more. The once confident lawyer now sounded frantic. I let it ring a few times before answering. My tone was steady, almost indifferent. "Mr. Daniel," he started. "Please, they're in a tough spot. They want to handle this without further harm." "Handle it peacefully," I repeated slowly. Did they care about peace when they gutted my savings? When they mocked me behind my back? He didn't answer. I pictured him in his polished office, struggling to steer the conversation. They're willing to negotiate. I chuckled softly, cutting through the quiet. Negotiate? Like they did when they treated me like their personal bank? They don't have that kind of money now. They're struggling. Not my problem. I want $28,000, every dollar, no installments, no delays. Or I take them to court and lay bare every lie they built this on. He paused. The silence on his end was thick. Give me until tomorrow. I ended the call without another word, resting my hand back on the desk. They always thought they were in charge. They never saw they were the ones being hunted. That night, I went home. The darkness enveloped me like a cloak. I cooked dinner for myself for the first time in years, just the sound of oil crackling in the pan and the aroma of fresh herbs. Every bite felt like a small triumph. The next morning, my phone rang again. Ronald Carter. His voice was subdued now, cautious, humbled. "Mr. Daniel, they've agreed. You'll get the full amount." "Good," I replied, "and they'll also sign a document stating they'll never contact me again." A long pause then. Understood. For a moment, I almost pitied them. Almost. An hour later, an email arrived, an official letter from Carter's office. It confirmed full repayment of $28,000 and a signed agreement that neither my wife nor her mother would ever reach out again. I read it twice. A cold satisfaction settled over me. They used me for years, but now their greed had crushed them. The next morning, I checked my bank account. $28,000. Deposited, every cent. But those numbers meant more than money. They were proof. Proof I was never the fool they thought I was. Then the messages resumed. Buzz after buzz. "We lost everything because of you, her mother. Please talk to me. We can fix this. My wife. I didn't respond. I didn't even block them. I let their words sit there. Pointless. Let them scream into the void. Another message came in. Ronald Carter again. They have nothing left. Are you satisfied? I stared at the screen. Satisfied? I typed back one word. Absolutely. I set the phone down and leaned back in my chair. Outside, the city moved on, swift and indifferent. But inside this quiet space, I had everything I needed. I wasn't their puppet anymore. I was the storm they never saw coming. The courthouse was nearly deserted. The clerk barely glanced up as he stamped the divorce papers and handed them back. I looked at the form. My name and hers finally severed. It was done. No more arguments. No final talks. Just finished. As I stepped into the crisp air, I felt no pain, no sorrow, just a clean, sharp freedom, like sunlight after a long rain. But they weren't done yet. My phone buzzed again. Her name, then again, her mother. Voicemails piled up. Please, I was wrong. Just talk to me. I love you. I didn't mean to hurt you. Her voice broke in every message, full of panic, false remorse, and guilt masquerading as love. But it didn't matter, because I was already gone. I didn't reply. That night, I stood by my apartment window gazing at the city lights glowing against the dark sky. Another call came in, another voicemail. You can't just walk away. We're family. Her mother's voice was laced with rage. You ruined everything. I smiled and dropped the phone onto the table. Family. Real family lifts you up. Real family shields you. What they did? That wasn't family. They bled me dry, then blamed me for the mess they made. Days passed, then weeks. The calls didn't stop. But I didn't care anymore. Work felt steady and focused. I felt stronger, calmer, clearer. Even my reflection in the elevator had changed. I didn't look drained anymore. I rediscovered old passions, reading, running, cooking for myself. Little things now felt like treasures. I had forgotten how good fresh coffee smelled in the morning, how serene a Sunday felt when no one was shouting, demanding, or guilting me. I filled my life with small joys, things they never let me savor, but they didn't stop. My wife's messages turned bitter. You're cruel, we're suffering, and you don't even care. Her mom tried a different tactic. We cared for you. We gave you a home. Is this how you repay us? A home? That place was never a home. It was a cage. I wasn't living. I was just footing their bills while they mocked me behind my back. I still said nothing, because now silence was the only response they deserved. Then one evening, I got a new message. Ronald Carter. They've lost everything. They have nothing left. Are you sure you want to keep this going? I stared at that message for a long moment, picturing him in his fancy office chair, trying to sound neutral, pretending to be fair, but I smiled. They thought I was the one falling apart. They thought I would keep giving until I was empty. They never realized I had stopped playing their game. They didn't know what real loss felt like. Not until now. For years, I believed I was building a family, but all I was doing was bankrolling their lifestyle. They turned love into a debt, trust into manipulation. But I finally understood. I didn't need to fight them anymore. I just needed to leave them behind. And in that silence, I found the loudest kind of peace. I started waking up to quiet mornings. No guilt, no stress, just sunlight warming the room. I spent weekends exploring the city, trying new cafes, finding the life I had forgotten existed. One day, I sat at a small bistro, laughing over coffee. A real laugh. And it struck me. I hadn't laughed like that in years. That night, I stood on my balcony, watching the city lights pulse against the night sky, and I finally let myself breathe. I didn't lose a wife. I didn't lose a family. I lost people who only pretended to care, and I gained a life that was finally mine. So, what are your thoughts on this story? Do you agree with what happened, or do you see it differently? Let us know your opinion in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. See you in the next one.